Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ONOG Summer Circuit feature number 2. We are in the final day of play. We're 2 matches away from giving another person a ticket to the grand final at PAX and writing them a check for 3,000 buckaroos. I'm Osmo, joined once again by the big sock Chacky from Team Dignitas himself, master of Hunter, Smork God himself. What's up,
Smork
Chack?
God. What's up, man? Yeah, Smork's been doing pretty well in this tournament. All four of our top four contestants have it. They had it in their original lineups. Looks like Hoj added Mage, Dog added Druid, if I
Mhm.
recall correctly. So,
Yeah, it seems right. And Hoj, he actually has not lost a single game so far in the feature tournament number 2. He came out first in his group yesterday and 3-0'd both of his opponents. Very quick matchups, and his decks just seemed like they were on fire. He's added Mage today, so we'll see what kind of Mage it actually is. He has Demon Zoo along with Hunter and Fast Druid right now. So if he's going with his theme, it's going to be like Mech Mage or Tempo Mage. But maybe he's throwing in like an Echo Mage or a Freeze Mage. We'll definitely have to see. I'm excited to see what Hoj is going to bring out.
yeah, I mean, I basically have no idea what the Mage is. I think your predictions are pretty much along the lines of what it could be. Doubt we'll see like a Mech Mage, but Tempo Mage, Freeze Mage, maybe even that weird Echo Mage could be what we could see.
Hey, people, I think underestimate Mech Mage a little bit.
Sure. It's definitely fallen out of favor. The new kind of tempo mage decks seem to be a little stronger than relying completely on the mech synergy.
Mhm.
We're gonna start with Hunter versus Druid, though. Pretty good Druid hand. Not that insane against Hunter. It'd be a lot better against like another class, innervating out the Thorison. I'm not sure if he'll still go for that, and then just kind of taunt and swipe to stabilize. But
Yeah. I mean, once you stabilize, I like this matchup a lot better for Druid as opposed to like a mid-range hunter because once you stabilize against a aggressive hunter, it's pretty easy for you to just keep stabilizing every turn while also developing threats.
yeah,
Whereas against a mid-range hunter, you stabilize early on, and then all of a sudden a high main is dropped, and you have no way to deal with it because you use like your keepers and your spells earlier on in the game. So he does have a decent hand to keep himself in the game and then be able to push through. So Hoj is not in too bad of a spot.
yeah, he's definitely with the cost reductions. He'll have a lot more flexibility going forward. He's at a decent health total. Dog did have a pretty aggressive start, so but he did have to trade 5 damage into the Emperor.
Hmm.
The Owl will line up pretty nicely with an Ancient of War if it gets to that. The Keeper is kind of awkward this turn, so yeah, he's just gonna go with the taunt over the Sylvanas. Decides he really needs to stabilize ASAP.
If this gets Owl, he's going to be pretty happy because his Ancient of War is most likely going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
Next turn, he'll be able to like keeper swipe to be able to clean the board, and then the following turn, be able to just plop down an Ancient of War, and that's going to be nearly impossible for Dog to get through if he uses the Owl on this turn.
Well, if Dog went for the Owl and things panned out as you expect, which I would think they would, you could deny the trap from the Scientist, but he would be getting really low. Dog could push 7 this turn, take him to 12, and then Bow here power the next turn, take him to 7. The taunt would come down, but then at that point, I think Hoj would still need to draw uh, some some heals, but
Hmm.
I like this a little more from Dog. It's weak to Harrison, but it's stronger against just more taunts, which is your opponent's more likely to have. He realizes that Druid of the Claw is probably the easiest taunt to deal with, whereas the Belcher and War basically you need the silence for.
And if Hoj was paying attention yesterday, he knows that Dog has Explosive and Snake as his traps of choice for this Hunter deck. I'm pretty sure Dog actually ran 3 traps, uh, double Explosive and a Snake. if I remember
I
correctly.
believe so. We were surprised by the second explosive in one of the matches, I think.
Yeah,
So he's going to proc the snake and get the swipe off. Now, Dog was thinking that, with explosive and snake, it's basically foolproof. Your opponent can't make a play that's good against both. They do opposite effects. So, but I
yeah,
mean, this way, Ho's just pushing a lot of damage. The explosive still can test that 4-1, but he can just sit behind it as a taunt for now. And Juggler doesn't really do anything.
yeah. I think damage is the key. Hoj is actually winning on the health war,
Yep.
which is
And
crazy.
with Savage Roar, I mean, he can take Dog down to 13, make a 5-10 taunt, and then he puts 7 on the board, plus the Savage
Yeah,
Roar, that's 13, so
just uproot.
just uproot. No, I think you can think you can do the other one, whatever it's called.
Downroot?
Is that what it, yeah, I'm like, what is it called? Like,
Well, look, I actually don't even know.
down root. That'd be pretty funny if that's what it was.
I really don't think it is. I'm trying to think, but um, uproot's actually a thing. What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we
It
didn't get to
doesn't
see
it
this
doesn't
one
say
first.
on the
Okay,
card. Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Here goes the Googling skills but I mean, Dog's not dead, but it's pretty rough. Oh, is he dead now?
Rooted, just rooted.
Yeah, he's dead now, I think. Rooted. Okay.
That's what it
Down
said.
root sounds pretty silly, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I feel like Dog kind of bit on the owl one turn too early, one turn too late, kind of as well. Because once you commit to not owling that 4-2, things didn't go his way with the swipe on the sneak trap. But
Yep.
Hosier's Druid deck with the Ancient War coming in big. He did have a nice draw against Dog's Aggro Hunter, but
Yep.
it's
And
the
it seems
seventh
like
win in a row.
yeah, he's on fire so far. It doesn't even seem well. I guess he did have a pretty decent hand there, but yesterday it didn't even seem like he was getting like the nuts draw.
Yeah.
He was getting decent draws, but it just seemed like I don't know. He was just winning.
Yeah, well, you do kind of have to look at how lineups kind of match up into each other, and that is, of course, a player decision. You choose what decks you bring, so if your decks line up well, it's not just blind luck. You had some say in that, and it's good on you for bringing the right decks. We'll have to see how Hosier's decks line up into Dogs. They were in different groups. That's how these semifinals work.
Mhm.
And if Dog won, he would meet Pavel, and they've already played. But if Hoj won, he would meet Pavel, who was in the other group. So Hoj
Yeah.
has a complete new set of opponents. So we'll have to see if his good fortune continues.
Hmm. Well, the classic Hunter versus Hunter, and I don't remember exactly what Hojo was running. I think it was just a really hybrid, like lots of hybrid elements, with Leopard Gnomes, Abusive Sergeants, but then like Shredder, Lothab, High Mains.
Yeah, I believe he had the Chargers in his deck, but also the High Mains. I think maybe there was a Dr. Boom in there even. I think we saw both Wolf Rider and Arcane Golem, so kind of all over the place, that new hybrid hunter.
It's like he has 36 cards.
Not really new, but yeah. But I mean, like you said, it's like he has 36 cards. He made cuts somewhere, and it's in cards that you really don't think too much about. Like we see Dog has an Unleash in hand. It might be that Hoj has one Unleash or even zero. I've seen in
That's bold.
certain lists. Certain lists being one of my lists. But yeah, I do think of it as with these hunter decks, if you're going to run one copy of a card, why aren't you running two? And you really have to kind of justify that. You have to come up with a reason why one is fine, but you don't want two. And if you're also running one, it's like, why not just zero and two of a different card?
Yeah.
Because with the deck like Hunter, you want to do the same thing as much as possible. You just want to be as aggressive as possible all the time. And this is a little. I mean, Hoj knows that there's Snake and Explosive, and he doesn't have it unleashed, so it is a true 50-50. We know it's explosive. I feel like it's better to play on explosive, especially if you know it's two explosive, one snake, but it's still risky. He could have just lost to the snake trap there.
Yeah, it's just so tough to deal with because it's an extra 3 damage every turn. It's also damage that can be distributed, which a lot of times is what you need against hunters because they have
Yeah.
lots. If they have lots of small threats, then if you're only killing like one of them a turn, that damage is going to face and really makes trading a lot easier. So he does guess correctly or play around the one that's the most impactful, like you said.
Hmm.
So I can't really tell who's too
Yeah.
far in the lead right now.
Now, this one isn't a true random secret. It was played from hand, so I feel like Hoj kind of got the read that it was Snake, which is probably what Dog wanted him to think. So he will end up taking a little extra. He did top deck that Unleash, though, so he'll be able to clean up the board. So it's very close. Both players at similar life totals.
I think Hoja's hand is frozen. He'll be
Yeah,
on
he
six
should.
mana
He
next
has
turn.
5 mana, so
Yeah.
he will go into 6, like you said. So Hoja's hand is frozen. We know he has the abusive. That is 6. Kill command's 9, and he'd have 11 from the hero power, so he's 3 off at the moment. But at the same time, you have to consider what Dog could have. He has 6 on board, 8 from the hero power. He would just need 4 from hand, which is quite doable for an aggro hunter. So now it might be put into a situation where Hoj has to trade. But with that Lotheb, he could potentially lock up the game. Lotheb abusive is 7. Kill command, he would still only have 12, so he basically has to go for this Savannah High main. And now Dog, is that it? No,
No, he's 1 mana
2
off.
mana. Yeah, he doesn't have enough mana. And Hoj actually has lethal from the other side of the board with the abusive kill command.
Just abusive kill command hero power. So
Yep.
even if Dog clears off the ooze here, he's still just dead. So I don't think there's any way that he can do it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the play here involves, like you said, clearing off that ooze. You have to assume your opponent doesn't have it all. He did weave in hero power, so he has to go with probably just a spell this turn. Could be Unleash, could be just Quick Shot. You do want to play around Lotheb a bit, and this actually didn't. So, if Hoj didn't have lethal, Lotheb would also be a consideration, but Dog can't respect everything. He's actually going to be dead to the kill command and the abusive.
mhm. All right. Well, Hoj continues his undefeated streak. That's 8 games in a row now that he's
Yep.
won, and he look at his face. He's just like, well, I don't even know what's happening right now.
Smork. Got
Yeah.
him.
Well, his decks are pretty aggressive. So, Hoj has Warlock. It's the Demon Zoo, and a mage deck that we have yet to see because that was the 4th deck that he chose going into the tournament. So I'm actually really excited to see what he's bringing with that. Imagine it's probably just Tempo Mage. I don't
I
think
wouldn't be
he.
surprised to see like Freeze Mage or a slower mage. I don't think just because his other decks are aggressive that he necessarily is inclined to bring a more aggressive deck for that 4th deck.
Isn't
You
that like
can
the best
change it up.
strategy though? To go with
The
all similar decks to make it so one deck of your opponents has a harder chance to win.
There is merit to kind of focusing out a single deck from your opponent, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean you should go all aggressive. All the aggressive decks are not actually equal. Zoo is definitely more board control-y, less burny than the Hunter deck, and Tempo Mage, is a little bit of a mixture of both styles. You do have the burn spells, but you're also looking to control the board with a lot of those effects. So the decks definitely do different things, and you kind of have to weigh
Yeah.
not only are they just aggressive, but what are their good matchups, what are their bad matchups.
Like all of his decks, he could be just targeting Druid if he has Tempo Mage. Like all of his decks just wreck Druids.
Yeah, now they did have to decide this before the tournament started, so it's not like he
Yeah,
got to add a deck based on what Dog had. So that's definitely one consideration. Dog doesn't have to be like afraid of it being
yeah,
something that counters his decks.
yeah. I mean, countering druids could be a good strategy, just because there's so many players in this tournament that really love druid. Dog is an avid druid player. Tom brings druid in most of his lineups. VX14 always plays druid. Dekis is outspoken about how druid is his favorite class.
Yeah, it's if you do your research, if you can really, and there are VODs of all of the open qualifiers, so you can kind of find out the tendencies of these players. Wouldn't be surprised to see Hoj do something like that, and that could have been one of the main things he was thinking about. But in this match, it looks like Dog. I mean, this is kind of where you want to be as the hunter. He got the piece together early one drops, push a lot of damage. He's got the burn to follow it up, and Hoj, besides the defender Vargas, kind of sitting on nothing.
Hoj is finally getting hosed.
Yeah, this will be his first loss of the tournament, so it's bound to happen eventually. And there it is. Owl off the top is lethal with the quick shot.
Turn 5.
Turn 5 lethal? Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, first loss, 8-1 total game score for Hoj now, and I still is sitting in a pretty good spot though. And that Hunter deck is, especially in a best of 7, is bound to find a win somewhere. We've talked about how Hunter has been by far the most successful deck so far. It hasn't lost many matches to things besides other Hunters. Maybe even like just one loss. And that was the first game that we saw in this matchup was the Druid. I don't think it's really lost any other non-Hunter matchups so far.
We did see VX lose to Handlock with his Hunter.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is also correct. So, but still, even with 2 losses, still a really successful deck so far. And now we're going to move into Rogue versus the Demon Zoo.
Yeah, both of these players have really been favoring sticking with the deck. I guess we can't really say that about Hoj since he's only lost once.
Yeah.
But it seems like every time Dog loses, he's stuck. He's stuck with that Hunter deck twice in a row. Hoj sticking with the Warlock deck after losing to it. The only thing he could swap to was Mage, so not that much strategy within that. I know a lot of players actually just favor kind of using like a random number generator or rolling a die or something to pick what they play.
Mm-hmm. In the end, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter too much as long as you don't have a pattern that your opponents can't.
Yep, you can get unlucky
Recognize.
on any given day with matchups. You can get lucky on any given day with matchups. You know, it just
That's
you can go
cards
either
there for
way.
you.
Yep. So I mean, Dog can't be too disappointed about this matchup, but neither can Hoj. I mean, given the matchups Hoj could have gotten, it's really not that terrible. I think it's really interesting how some of the Rogue players play this. They say it's very like it really depends on your hand. You have to find a way to eventually take over this board position. And like here, Dog decided not to play Violet Teacher, and I feel like that kind of is a nod to Implosion, which Hoj has. When you don't play a minion, you basically make Implosion not relevant, and so Hoj has to make weaker plays.
I think giving him easy power roaming targets is not something that he wants to do either.
Yeah,
Like
you
he
really
could just
do
power
want
roam
to.
the Haunted Creeper into the Violet Teacher and gotten ridiculous amounts of value out of it.
Yeah, you really do want to remove as much of the board as you can before you go for a big minion turn. He's going to hold on to the Flurry, though, obviously, with his 4 damage dagger until it's a little better. The Void Caller will actually get Mal'Ganis, though, this match, and Dog doesn't have a Sap, which is one of the few counters Rogue really has to that card.
Yeah. A while ago, Rogues were putting in BGH, but that was when handlocks were basically all over the ladder, and that just isn't happening right now. And it's not happening in competitive play. There are a lot of people that are bringing handlock, but not as many as there were back then. His stuff is lining up pretty well. He hasn't taken too much damage.
There's the Saps, so
There we go.
He's going to get a nice flurry one of these turns, and he's going to get to sap the Mal'Ganis that comes out. If another Void Caller comes out, that's actually really annoying. It's not like you really want to sap Void Caller, so it's almost like he wants a Mal'Ganis to come out this turn, just to get the sap on it. But with so much stuff coming from Hoj, he's going to have Boom. He's eventually going to get that Mal'Ganis out again, and Dog really hasn't piled on any pressure. And oh, he still has the mana for sap. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 mana.
Like he's already hovering over the sap because he knows. Oh,
and see, that's really not what you want to see.
Yeah.
He's just
and
gonna
I
have
was
to
probably
eat
thinking
another
that there's no demons left.
Yeah. The Flame Imp could come up pretty big if that's what gets pulled out of it. If Dog just decides he has to go for it. But Dog doesn't have, I mean, now that he picks up 2 saps, he has a way to deal with Dr. Boom, sort of. Yeah. I mean, if you can really count that.
Hate sapping Dr. Boom. You always hate sapping Dr. Boom because the Boombots can be so impactful. The Boombots can remove your board. So you can remove your board twice.
So, TJ, how do you feel about the theory that the Boombots always kill Azure Drake?
I just got my Golden Rogue yesterday, so I've been playing a lot of Rogue lately. Like 400 matches of Rogue in the past 2 weeks. And I would say it's very true. It feels like every time Dr. Boom is played, I have no board by the end of my turn. Because your stuff has like 4 health and 3 health. You usually have like an Azure Drake and an SI agent on the board at most.
He misses it, and we actually don't get to test the theory. It's unfortunate, but... Yeah. Hoj in a really great spot. I mean, the preps, I would say, came a bit late. If Dog had those early, he could have developed a lot more 1/1s with the teacher. He could have gotten the teacher out earlier. Really an important card to have, especially with that Violet teacher and spells like Phantom Knives.
Well, he sort of has to go for a last-ditch effort sprint here.
Yeah, he can sap Dr. Boom again. But
I think he's still just dead because Mal'Ganis is going to buff up the Flame Imp and the Void Terror. So that would be 10 damage. 13 damage with just the Boombot. So he's got to remove something else. So he does remove the Flame Imp. So that's good. But it just seems like he's like trying to patch up a hole in a boat with a Band-Aid.
Well, now we get to see some Boombot action. And if the Boombots don't just kill him, I think we're just going to see another Dr. Boom.
Yep.
You've already
6
seen both
Boombots.
You've already seen both preps from Dogs, so you can't really be afraid of just dying as long as you remove that SI agent. I would just start running in Boombots, see where they fall. If they fall correctly on the face, your opponent is just dead to Mal'Ganis. Looks like he's okay. So he's going to go with a more kind of safe play, I guess. It is hard for Dog to really ever deal with this.
Phantom Knives, he just dies.
Here we go. Oh, he lived. He's alive.
Here, let's see how low he is though. 1.
1.
What? 3 1s. Oh no.
He can live. He can live.
And then Dr. Boom just comes down again.
Yeah, Dr. Boom again. Sick.
Oh no.
1-1-1.
That's crazy.
I don't think I've ever seen the triple 1 hit.
Yeah, he could just even tap for Doomguard. All right, Dr. Boom number 3, Boombots number 5, and number 6.
He will get to heal, but
Dog actually runs has been running double heal bot a lot in his rogue decks lately.
So that one got 2, and that's gonna do it. He has enough. Oh, but with the backstab now he needs to hit a bomb. Oh no, it's backstab on Boom, so that's gonna do it. Argus and Abusive.
Oh well, Doomguard also.
Doomguard for good measure.
Yeah.
It was a good effort.
All right. Well, Hoj goes up 3-1, so now he has 3 opportunities to win with his mage deck, whatever it may be. So he's in a really great spot right now. And I like how whenever we go to this screen, like there's one player that's under me and one player that's under you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're visually obligated to root for those players.
Yeah, my player is dominating you, TJ.
Yeah,
Get wrecked.
Dog needs to step it up.
Did I
I
did I
I
have
actually
Pavel
casted
last
feature tournament
match?
number one with Dog, so it's kind of weird. Did you have no? I had Pavel last match.
Oh, did you? Oh man, I got
Yeah,
wrecked.
you had
All right.
VH15.
So going in the finals, if Hoj wins, I guess I get Hoj, you get Pavel.
Yep.
I'll
Well, I
take
don't
it.
know. I don't know how it's gonna work.
We'll just take what we're given.
hmm Well, it looks like Hoja's game crashed, so we'll get back into that as quick as we can.
Yep.
It looked like it was Tempo Mage, the token sort of Tempo Mage, or the um, machine gun mage or whatever. He had mechanical Yeti, so probably like Clockwork Gnome as well. Yep, there it is. Try and get a lot of spare parts to synergize with Archmage Antonidas as well as the Flame Wakers. So I really like this version of Mage.
Yeah, I mean the Clockwork Gnome's not insane against Rogue. It just kind of gives them something to do with their dagger on turn two. Dog has a lot of minions to curve out, but he doesn't have a lot of spells. Oh, but that's a really awful turn two for Hosh. Pretty big that he bricked there. Dog's actually just going to develop a 3/3.
Yeah, and if Dog can pick up like a prep or something, his hand is really awesome because he's got creatures. If he can back it up with spells, he's going to be in a really good spot.
We see Hosh talking to his bird, Pidgey.
Yep.
Seems like Pidgey only comes in when he feels Hosh is about to win.
Yeah. He can sense the lethal. He's whispering in his ear right now, "Get him. Get him, champ."
Top deck that flame cannon. Maybe use it, but man, no, maybe just go for that Yeti.
Yeah. Pidgey is
Yeah,
a budgie. That's the type of bird we concluded yesterday. We actually didn't look up and actually confirm that it is a species of bird, but we're trusting the people that told us.
all right. We're getting confirmation.
That someone named John looked it up.
Thanks, John.
John, wherever you are, you're the man.
You're the real MVP. Well, Dog's pretty ahead this game. I mean, he's managed to stick some minions, get board control over the Tempo Mage, which is a pretty tough thing to do. He does have Earthen Ring Farseer. We know there's a heal bot somewhere in that deck, even a Time Rewinder. So he feels pretty comfortable taking quite a bit of damage early game. He's only
Yeah.
taken 7, which isn't really a big deal. You can afford to take probably about 15 before you're really concerned about face tanking more.
This hand is bad from Hoj.
It's bad, yeah.
He
I
doesn't
mean,
have any creatures. It'd be fantastic if he had Flame Waker because he'd be able to just go off, but he doesn't. So there will be no going off.
yeah, he can. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to go for board control. He can freeze that 4/3 and just try and hope that this pushes a lot of face damage. But for Dog, I mean, when you see a fireball, how concerned are you really about face damage from that point on? You basically understand it's all about board control. Your opponent used a fireball for board, so now they're kind of off that burn you out game plan. And it's not like
Yeah.
the Tempo Mage really excels at that anyway.
Yeah, Finicky Cloakfield is actually really good for this matchup because if you get him low enough, you could like play a Azure Drake or something and just Finicky Cloakfield it, set up for an Oil Blade Flurry the following turn. The only thing that blocks it is like Mirror Image, which can be used really strategically in this matchup. But it's actually a pretty good spare part.
Yeah, and Finicky Cloakfield plus Archmage Antonidas is one of those things that can really just take a game that looked like you were going to lose, and suddenly you're in a great spot.
Yeah,
So, definitely a consideration going into this late game is how you use that Finicky Cloakfield. Looks like he's going to set up mirror images now just to protect whatever gets mirror entitied. A lot of the small stuff is out of the way for Dog, so he knows he'll probably get a nice mirror entity target.
Hmm.
And I think that might prompt Dog to just sprint, yeah. I think there was a lot of merit to playing Azure Drake this turn if there wasn't a mirror entity, but obviously now you basically just get to dictate the mirror entity, and especially drawing into Blood Mage Thalnos, you can give him a lot worse of a card.
Well, there's a Flame Waker. It's a little late, but he still should get decent value out of it as the game goes on. It can pick off a lot of things, especially if you use it on a later turn with a lot of cheap spells in his hand, like he does have. But he's already just so far behind. I'm not sure if he's even going to be able to come back in this game quick enough to be able to make work with that.
Yeah, he's just really far behind in terms of board. Wonder if it looked like Dog went to kill the 1/1, and I guess just left the 4/4 alive. Yeah. So again, really disrespects the fact that his opponent could have burn. I mean, the maximum Hosh could have would be Fireball, Frostbolt, Frostbolt. That would be 15. So with the spell power, he'd be getting really close. But that is a 3-card combo. You've already seen a Fireball. You're not willing to play around that, and Dog recognizes that and just pushes face damage.
Yeah, he knows that two of the cards in the hand are spare parts as well, so that reduces the chance that the burn is there.
Yeah. So we're going to see the Flame Waker turn come out. And I think he's going to get to stealth up this Mana Worm, but it could still just die to a Flurry, potentially.
Yeah.
Which I think we're almost guaranteed to see next turn.
Yep.
I'll have to see where these missiles go. Ooh, perfect. Yeah, now he gets to get down the Finicky Cloak Field without needing to ping.
Doesn't even look like he's going to go for it. Looks like he's just going to go for Mad Scientist.
Well, yeah, the Cloak Field doesn't really play around the one card that would wreck him, which is, Big Flurry. Dog actually doesn't have the weapon buff, so he needs to pick that up. Okay.
It was pretty likely that he did.
It was.
He's got double oil and double deadly still left in his hand.
One
Both
deadly.
would have sufficed. Oh, really?
Yeah, he already used one deadly. So.
Okay.
It wasn't it was likely he already had it, but since we knew he didn't, it actually wasn't that terribly likely. And I think that's about going to do it for Hoj in this match, in this game, rather.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and there's the secured 7 damage. Only thing that's going to save him is like a Flame Strike. And here comes the cycle from Hoj. He could have used this probably about 5 turns ago, but could give him a hope.
Yeah, I think his best hope was if he top decked Antonitis and stealthed it, he'd still be dead to the Abyssal Dog's hand, but it would set up a lethal in his mind. So if he did draw that, that's what he would have gone for.
Yeah. He's drawing his deck backwards.
Yep. So the Dog's just going to check, make sure it's Mirror Instinct, not Counterspell. It is, and that's going to do it.
All right, well, Dog's going to take his 2nd win of this series. Hoj still going to be on match point for the next game and potentially the game after that, but Dog's starting to mount a comeback, finds a win with the Rogue. And so Dog's going to have Patron Warrior and Druid remaining. Keep in mind, Druid was actually the deck that he added as his designated 4th deck. So it's the deck that he has the least amount of confidence in. But Hoj also on his 4th deck with the Mage. And yesterday he ended up going 6-0 total game score. And that was without the Mage. So we'll see if Hoj can manage to continue a high win streak.
Yeah, I don't want to call the Mage's weak link necessarily, but he is 9-1 with his original 3-deck lineup.
Yeah.
0-1 with this Mage at the moment. That's obviously the smallest sample size possible, so
it's 50% of his losses.
Can't draw too many conclusions off that, but there is that kind of worry. I mean, you're almost thinking it's like, man, if this wasn't a best of 7, I'd be on my way to the finals already. But
yeah,
I think the matchup Dog's going to struggle to find a win, and if any, would be the Druid against this Tempo Mage.
And one of the weaknesses of the Tempo Mage is that it is just inconsistent. It has a lot of pieces of the deck that just don't do much by themselves. Cards like Mirror Image just aren't good when you have to play them just as 0-2 taunts, unless you're playing against aggro and really need to buy time. Also, it runs a lot of late game, or some a decent amount of late game threats and like secrets that you just don't want to have to play naked on turn 3. So it does have some inconsistencies, but there are times where you can just completely get blown out if they have the nuts with Sorcerer's Apprentice, Flame Wankers, and Mana Worms combined with removal spells early on.
Yeah, the taunts are actually pretty great against warriors, especially the Grim Patron Warrior. They can't really bounce patrons off of it. But like you said, I mean, when you draw too much of your situational cards, it can be a bad thing. We are getting to the point where it's like Hoj is going to need to pick up maybe like an Azure Drake pretty soon. An Emperor going forward would be pretty nice, but he's going to need to pick up more to really close out this game. And that
Civil
could be the
Portal's pretty
start of
good.
it. Yeah, that could be potentially the best thing. Hey,
Whoa!
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's
You've seen one
actually
execute, so
really tough to remove. Yeah, and plopping down this Archmage, and it actually fits his curve as well. Like he's got the perfect amount of mana to play it, so it's like the most valuable mana slot that he could get out of the unstable portal, and the most power that he could put on the board. In Dog's face, he looks at that Archmage, he's like, "Oh, geez."
yeah, Unstable Portal's never the most fun card to play against. It's usually, something you can't really play around. Like last turn, Dog wasn't like, oh yeah, next turn my opponent's going to play an Archmage on 5. So it's one
Yeah,
of those things. It isn't a huge swing. It's basically just like if you had top decked an Azure Drake, and instead of a card draw, it just gets +3 health, which I would say is probably a little better at the moment. You do
yeah.
want to just have a bigger board presence that the Warrior can't deal with. But
I had
Ho
a game.
just... Oh, go ahead.
I had a game the other day where I was playing as a rogue against a mage, and I had no cards left, but I had a 7/3 piloted shredder on the board, and a like a an oiled up dagger, and my opponent had no cards in his hand but like 3 cards left in his deck, and he unstable portaled a Deathwing,
Oh, man.
and then I got a Lore Walker Cho out of my piloted shredder, and then he just killed me the next turn, and I had lethal.
Actually, I won a game with Deathwing just yesterday. I'm just playing Deathwing in my deck at the moment.
Which class?
Mage.
Okay. Oh, you're just playing it. You're just taking out the middleman, the unstable portal.
Yeah, yeah. You don't
Go straight
want
to the source.
You just play the Deathwing. It's super sick. They never expect it. But I mean, if anyone could use the Deathwing right now, it might be Dog. Ho's just gone all in. He's completely out of cards. Went very hard on this Mana Worm, and it's going to pay off a lot. He's pushing 9-10 with the hero power damage a turn, and the Mirror Images carrying a lot of weight blocking those weapon attacks. Dog's hand is terrible right now.
Yeah. See what he gets. Armor plating, not really too useful at the moment.
Yeah.
But he could use it for extra couple damage later on with Flame Waker or Archmage Antonitis. He does draw into some burn as well, but Dog is actually still relatively healthy. If Dog manages to stabilize and still keep a decent amount of health, he could be in a good spot because Hoj is just out of stuff.
Yeah, if he can pick up like an Execute, he can use that with the Deathbite Whirlwind the very next turn, make some patrons, remove both the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Archmage, and suddenly be kind of okay. Right now, it's 14 damage. Another Fireball would end it for Hoj.
Wow,
Oh,
Dr.
man.
Boom.
Well, that might as well end it. That's rough.
That is really rough. Hoj is going to think about it, but I don't think there's much to think about here.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be scared of the Deathbite here, but I just don't think you can really afford it. These bombs can make it so you have lethal just next turn with a Fireball.
Yep. I guess he was thinking about armor plating and what to use it on. So he's going to
Yeah.
use it on a 3/2 so it doesn't die to a double Whirlwind. He could have also used it on a bomb.
All right, well, Hoj is staring at a place in the finals here.
I think that's it. no matter what Dog does
Yeah.
with the fireball from hand. Dog can probably stay alive on board. Maybe not. Yeah, he's actually just dead now because of those bombs.
Yeah. All right. There it is. Hoj moves on to the finals of feature number 2. He's going to play against Pavel.
Yeah. These
I
are
was trying to
probably
think of a
our
nickname for him, but I couldn't.
these are probably the two most dominant players we've seen, which I mean, it's pretty obvious given that they're going into the finals, but they've
Yep.
looked really solid in their matches so far. We've seen some interesting play, I'd say, especially from Pavel, going with, I would say, just playing non-aggressive decks very aggressively, which
Mm.
tends to work out pretty well. It's one of those things that you don't really think of too much, but when you see it in action, it works out really well. So definitely interested to see this final. I would
Yeah.
say well deserved from both players.
So Hoj has only dropped 2 games so far. His total game score is what, 10-2?
10 and
Uh,
2.
yeah. So that's super impressive. 50% of his losses are with the 4th deck that he's put in that mage. Dog won't go home empty-handed for taking 3rd, 4th. He'll take $750 plus 10 Geico points. So he still has a chance to qualify for packs if he manages to place in one of the upcoming opens and get a little bit more Geico points. $750 is also a decent amount of money for playing in a tournament over the weekend. But I'm really excited to see the finals. Also, keep in mind that you can participate in the qualifier yourself. Jackie, where can they find information about that qualifier?
Yeah, if you go over to liquidheart.com on the right side of the website, you'll find all the information about the qualifiers. We're only halfway through. This is an entire big summer circuit brought to you by One Nation Gamers and Geico. 8 out of 16 down, 8 to go. 4 for North America, 4 for Europe. Completely free, completely open. All you need to bring is your Hearthstone account and some Hearthstone decks, and you could find yourself in one of these feature tournaments in the future.
Yeah, also, it's a great way to get Hearthstone World Championship points as well. I know there's a limited amount of ways that you can get those, so the open tournaments do award those. So if you place highly, you might get that little bit extra boost that could make you closer to qualifying for the BlizzCon regionals. But during the break, also make sure you head over to geico.onog.gg. You can get a Geico quote, as well as sign up to win an official TSM PC. It's a great way for Geico to gauge how much support you guys are putting into this tournament, to maybe encourage them to sponsor more esports events. So definitely head over and do that during the break. But we're going to go to a quick, I believe, 2-minute break before we jump into the grand finals of feature tournament number 2. But don't go anywhere, guys. The conclusion of the Summer Circuit Feature 2 returns right after this.